Topic number 2 says, is this facts for a good relationship, or is it simping and religious propaganda? If you guys can hear my voice, because this thing is telling me there's no internet. If you can still hear me out in the chat, drop a 1 for me, please. So Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 is this facts for a good relationship, or is it simping and religious propaganda? This came with a link to YouTube. We'll watch this video and then we'll discuss it.
Get a good wife. Okay? Do 5 things for your wife. If you want your wife to respect you, do 5 things for your wife. Oh yeah? Number 1, always give your wife money. Number 2, don't forget to give her money. Number 3, okay? Keep giving her money. Number 4, don't go out without giving money. Number 5, if the money finish, go and borrow money. Because women, they like money. If you don't get money, no follow woman. Women, if you want your husband to be the best, listen to me. Any woman will go do this one, your husband will love you till he die. If you want to get the best husband, do 2 things for your man. Men, we know they're greedy. Now 2 things we want for marriage. Number 1, don't ever love your husband. Now mad woman. 9, they love a man. No woman can ever love a man. Now man get rights to love woman. Even inside Bible, he did here. That's why Bible tell man to say, he say, man, love your wife. Papa, Bishop, she no be so. You know, say, woman, love your husband. You say, man, love your wife. Your food, you know, they make us joy. You will know who cook, who pass you. Caring, we don't need. You know, they put money for our pockets. The thing where man need, give your man respect. Respect your husband. If he say sit down, madam sit down. If he say run, madam they run. If he say disappear, madam disappear. The second thing you go do for man, that one go make man increase. Any woman will do this one, your husband go love you till he die. Avoid our phone, oh. You dey hear me? Leave our phone alone, oh. Don't be your papa by the phone. Leave our phone for us. Before thunder, go fire you. That thing where you define for the phone, I swear, it dey inside. And if you see him, now you go cry. If you cry finish, you go your papa house. If I'm making sense, clap for me now. I have a song. If you want to get a good wife,
you know, that actually reminds me of Soca Monarch. If you guys are familiar with Calypso and Soca, around the time of Trinidad Carnival, well, not just Trinidad Carnival, they do it in Dominica and stuff too. They have something called Soca Monarch where they kind of come out and they kind of roast a little bit. That really sounded just like that to me. If you guys are familiar, drop a 2 in the chat. I feel like this prompt is a little bit of a trick bag prompt. The guy just basically said, give your woman money, give her money, give her money. And in the world that we live in today, that's pretty much sound logic. But the problem with it is that, to me anyway, it takes away from any kind of like emotional, like feelings type thing. It's I pay you to be here, so be here. It's that kind of thing. I pay you to be here. If I tell you to sit down, sit down. Like it's and I get it, but it's something a little bit shitty about it to me. Let me see what my panelists will say. Let me start with Buana this time. Buana, what's it?
It is. Can you hear me? 1 2 1 2. That kind of. I like the song. I like the song personally. I like the song, but that only go work in a context where, because the Western woman can say, "Well, I make money my own money. I don't need your money. She can look at you and laugh. She gets like, I don't need your money. And in the Western world too, the Jamaicans had one song called Brinks. New name. So you can't just look at a man's must just be continuously giving you money like an ATM machine. What about the rest of the relationship? You can't just relegate the relationship between a man and woman for a man to continuously give you money. That I mean that's a one sided relationship. And I think that, and maybe in Africa, maybe where the women may not work, or you go to a 9 to 5 job all the time, and they more dependent on the money is from the men, or the men to be providers monetarily, then you would be in a situation that's the only source of income to cause the house to continuously run. In the Western world, that's not necessarily the case. So a woman gonna look at you, say, "Man, you can keep your money, man. I make more money than you." Some of these women, they'll tell you that. As far as the trope with the, well, don't, if you want a man to love you, you must not look at the man phone. There's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. Give the man his privacy. Everybody deserves to have a little bit of privacy. That's some truth to that. I can't forget the next thing he say. But it's just, I don't know, man. Whatever works in these relationships, because one size does not fit all in terms of a relationship between you and a partner. And what might work for me might not work for John. So I can't really say on a one size fits all. But it's just a happy little trope that this man come up with. I like the music. I like the music. So, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate it, Buana. Yeah, Anthony McPhail knows exactly what I'm talking about. You see, he reminded me of Black Stallion. Yeah, is that same old school soca monarch? It's not the new school soca monarch stuff. This is that old school soca monarch stuff where they would hit these kind of topics and stuff like that. It'll be funny, but it's melodic. It's the music and stuff like that. Uh, I actually appreciate it. Buana talked about not looking through the phone. Pro Black Perspective says, I think not looking at phone is brilliant. It's like why couples fight, I've observed. Yeah, once you go through someone's phone, there's usually going to be a problem. But the question I have about that too is, why do you have things in your phone that's problematic? And it goes back to that what I said earlier. This idea that basically I'm paying you to be a wife. I find that extremely problematic. I understand that we can't base these relationships solely on feelings because feelings do change. But the idea that I'm just paying you to go along and get along, I don't like that. Black Steel, how you feel about that?
Well, I agree with you, Coco. It all goes back to the commodification of relationships. If you look at it from a socialist perspective, from a leftist perspective, we see how capitalism has infiltrated everything that we have, even our intimate relationships. So where the only value you have is how much money you bring into a situation. And then once that money disappears, the relationship is over. So as a way to keep capitalism from stagnating, it has to infect everything about our society. So a person's morals no longer matter. His values no longer matter. How he treats you doesn't matter. What really matters is how much fiat currency, how much wealth can he bring in. I've heard some people say that it's better to cry in a limousine in a Mercedes than it is to cry on the bus, as if it's okay to put up with bad treatment in a relationship if that person has some level of financial status. But this is kind of all is going back to as far as just the commodification of relationships, how we view our intimate partnerships with each other as a transaction. Just even the value, even when we talk about it, we talk about sexual market value. Sometimes some of the manosphere guys talk about sexual market value as if you can measure a person's market, as if your sexuality has a market, as in, again, we talk about the economy. Everything has to be put through the lens of, the economic lens, buying, selling, everything else like that. I think we become so accustomed to it that we don't really listen to ourselves and realize how ridiculous it sounds. If you with somebody, if you like her, you care about this person. I mean, we're gonna work together, not just give her money. You like her, give her money. Find her some money, give her some money. There's a place to give your person some money, but at the same time, there's more to life than just fiat currency. And I think that's something that we're missing in a lot of our day-to-day interactions with one another. Um, and the whole thing about paying a woman to stay, what happens when your money runs out? What happens? I mean, let's think about this from a religious standpoint. And I don't know how it is everywhere else, but I know in the United States of America, most people in this country are literally one paycheck away from being on the street. And that is a fact. So you get a health emergency, you get into a car accident, anything can happen. If I know in my heart that this woman will not stay with me, if something happens to my income, that woman is a liability. She is not an asset. She needs to go on about her business. She's not there to build up the relationship. She's just there to benefit for herself. And once she can no longer benefit, she's out the door. What good is a woman like that? What good is a man like that? That's not something that you really want to consider to be a good thing. People should stay because they genuinely care about you. They want to be with you, not because, oh, I'm paying you to stay with me. Because just like an employer, when your employer can't pay you anymore, what do? You leave. Are we in a relationship? Or are we in a financial transaction? That's what we really have to ask ourselves. We really have to understand just how badly the capitalist system has fucked with everything that we hold dear to ourselves. You have people who literally pay for cuddling, who they're so devoid of human touch, they have to pay someone to hold them or to cuddle with them. That it's crazy. As far as looking through the phone thing, like you say, Coco, if you don't have nothing in your phone, then you shouldn't trip. At the same time, if you go looking for stuff, you're gonna find something. So to me, I'd rather just err on the side of caution. What's done in the dark will come to light eventually. So to me, I'd rather just not even be caught on surprises like that. So I'm not going through people's phone. I wouldn't expect my lady to go through my phone, but if she did, what would she find? I really don't have anything to hide. But anyways, I'll go ahead and pass the mic and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
No, thank you, Black Steel. I was gonna ask a follow-up question, just like that I forgot. The pro-black perspective in it says, I think money is pretty valuable. Maybe old school relationship were a woman's first job. Maybe old school relationships were a woman's first job. Explain that a little bit more for me. Only Buana, go ahead.
No, I think it's the rise of tricking. Back in the day, the tricks was seen as something that was immoral. Something is like, well, to be a trick or a John wasn't necessarily a good thing. But now, in the day when we living in a transactional society, and the women too, you see the rise of whore culture. So whore culture is being promoted, and tricking culture is being promoted. So now the people who was looked at as simps back in the day, they are being put on stage because they are willing to have more of a transactional form of a relationship. They pay for a woman to stay, and that is okay now. You know what I mean? That is okay now. So pay her, pay her, pay her, pay her, pay her. While the woman say, sure, I'll do anything strange for some change. This is where we are going. And does anyone say anything about that? They say, oh, you are whore shaming or slut shaming. Oh, you are trick shaming. Because to me, this is all trick behavior. So you are trick shaming now, to say that maybe I don't want a woman just because I pay her money. I just want her to be with me off of the strength of my personality, the fact that she likes me. It's like, I don't want to just have to pay this woman to hug me or come on, man. But that's not the sign of the times where we are right now. We are in the age of whore culture and trick culture. So, that's where we are. That's what I think. I don't know. I'll stop there.
I agree with you 1,000% if that's possible. We are in whore culture times, and I like the addition that you are. We're in trick culture too, because you have whores, you have to have tricks, right? And what I'm noticing too, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like the passport bros, because the passport bros start exporting that kind of mindset wherever they go. Oh, it's cool, you lay up with a dude for some money, and then you come back to your indigenous man trying to, you know what I mean? Like, that's not cool. But I'm realizing that this is like a kind of a Western type thing that's happening, where there's this whole culture and trick culture, and it's okay. But if you go in certain other parts of the world, that's not how it was. I can't speak to how it is in all these parts of the world, but that's not how it was. You actually could have win over a thing back in the day. You could have get a nice gal, uh, just through your talks and who you were and stuff like that. Now it's about peacocking and having some floats in your pocket and all this kind of stuff like that. It's a shame. It's a shame where it's going. I don't think it's sustainable. And I'll tell you something. I don't think it's good for African people. I don't think it's good for African people wherein we will say things like, the key to this fight is the family, but then we'll uphold this type of shit. This type of shit doesn't create families. I mean, am I off about this, fellas, or do you guys
Absolutely
agree?
not.
I agree with you. And one thing I got to say is it's really sad when you hear the poorest demographic saying these type of things. Because what is that? How do you formulate? We're all poor, believe it or not. We got a few people out here that's doing well, but most African people are poor. So when you use this type of financial reason to limit your family formation, you're literally allowing another people to dictate how you form your family, because doesn't come from us.
And I want to add to that. I want to add to that because Black Steel said something that was very relevant. But I would say, yes, most of our communities are poor, but poverty begins in the mind, brother. I mean, I know my brothers, is thinking on a material level, but poverty begins in the mind. And if you have the mindset, whereas the relationship is just based off a transaction, it's a transactional one, and I must peacock as Koku just said, peacocking, show all my wares for my short-term relationship that I'm gonna spend with the opposite sex, and then after that, we just go our separate ways. But what happens in the act when we together? We can have a child, and a child gonna be born out of that transactional short-term relationship, and he's gonna be set to the world because nobody really wants to be a parent then. So the poverty continues. Poverty is a mindset. Poverty is a mind. If you look at the wealthiest people in the world, look at their partners. They was there from the beginning when they had no money. When they had no money, nothing. And they continued with these people until they got money. And they continued with their partners. Sometimes, not always, because sometimes they get a remodel and find a young chick, whatever. But usually, when you see these multi-billionaires and things like that, check out their partners and listen to the relationships. It's a long-term committed relationship. So I believe that poverty, yes, but that poverty begins in the mind. Mindset is a very integral in terms of poverty, where you go and where you decide to stay in life. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, I appreciate both of your comments there. Uh, the pro-black perspective, that's only in the chat. He says it's probably the white tourists before the passport bros. Whitey was the original blue passports. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Oni. When I talk about passport bros, for the most part, I'm talking about white boys because it was them who really used to do this thing. But of course, uh, some black men started to follow that shit too, and they also export that same kind of mindset. I don't like that. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a part of the reason why I don't like it too. I'm from a small place, man. And Buana's there now. He's from there too, right? I'm from a small place where you start bringing that pay for play thing, and it becomes rampant. That really destroys the fabric of your communities and stuff. Now every man is out here, fighting for scraps or peacocking to the point of killing one another and all kind of stuff like that. I don't like that stuff. I just don't vibe with that at all.
And in our economy, we would never win with that. Why? Because the GDP of most people who live in this society is not as much as the people who visit the society. So really, in essence, the North American tourist should always win because they have more money than the regular man on the street of the Bahamas. So the passport brothers, when they come here with $100,000 incomes, they gonna beat out the man on the regular streets of the Bahamas who only making $30,000 a year. He's gonna always be in a deficit in that scenario. So it wouldn't necessarily work here well. Because from the game start, we already done lose. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, look at what's going on in the Dominican Republic. Look how rampant sex tourism is in the DR, and how that affects people living over there.
Absolutely. When I was speaking about it, in my head, I was visualizing the DR. Venezuela has that going on too. I was talking about that. Yeah, I mean, next, what happens? A man will just walk in your house and take your woman. That's where this shit is heading. Like Brother Bakari says in the chat. What happens when a man comes around with more money? That's what we getting at.
What was that movie? Indecent Proposal, with the dude offered him $1 million to sleep with his wife.
Yeah, I don't want to even be a millionaire. That's the crazy part.
In the DI, the going rate is just 1,000.
Wow. Do they take credit cards?
Yeah, I knew a guy who used to go to the DR regularly and come back with pictures of him and these women laid up in bed and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, once you start doing that, that's what you open yourself up to.
And some of the women are wives. They wouldn't say that, but some of them are wives. Beat
me to the punch. You beat me to the punch. I just about to say, some of these women married. You don't want your society like that. You don't want. Shout out to Yana B, by the way. She joined the chat. Brother Bakari says that's the oldest profession. Gas 'em Up made a point one time that I had to think about, and I'm like, Gas may have a point here. That's their oldest profession. Our women was farmers, because I think about my grandmother, for example. My grandmother, to me, may she rest in peace. My grandmother was like a African woman, to be honest. And she was a woman. She was always farming. My grandfather went out and worked and stuff first for the prison and then for the Ministry of Education. But she was always farming. She didn't work a formal job, and I think about that. Her mother then was farming too. And so we were always farming. These are the people women was out here selling crabby, for $1 and all kind of stuff like that, In the chat, Trighavi 262 Plus says they really take your communities, then make a tourist sector, and then here comes the sex tourism. Absolutely. Right? Yana B laughed at Buana about the marriage thing, and she says Gas 'em Up was correct. Trighavi 262 Plus says a white man went to Kenya and had sex with 40 women. And some of those women were wives. He had HIV and AIDS, biological. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we have to nip this shit in the bud. We can't make our cultures about, transactional, as Buana and them put it. We got to nip this shit in the bud. Next thing, a man will walk in your house and just take your daughter from out your hand or your wife from out your hand. If there's no other last thoughts, if there's any last thoughts, you guys can say it now. If not, we'll go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. Yeah, and by the way, Trigger, I remember that story. In fact, yeah, I think he was charged or something not too long ago. You know,